This video is brought to you by NES Bitbox Game Cases, the best way to display and store your NES games. So be sure to check out stoneagegamer.com/bitbox to place an order, link below. How you doing, gamers? This is John with Gamester81.com. This episode, I'll be talking about the top 10 modern games for retro fans. I mean, these are games that came out last generation, the PS3, Xbox 360, or the Wii, that are, if you're a fan of retro games, like 8-bit, 16-bit games, you will really enjoy these games. This is a really hard list to come up with, so I recruited my good friend. His name is Wood. He's got a great channel. I'll put a link to it below. It's Beatemups here on YouTube. And he's got several series. One is Morningwood, another one is Game Quest. Game Quest is cool. Wood and his crew, they live in Australia. They basically go game hunting at various swap meets and flea markets. And what's cool is it's a high production value. If you enjoy shows like the Game Chasers or Retro Liberty, definitely check this channel out. Super nice guy. So I'm joined by Wood, and what we'll do is we'll start with number 10, and we'll go from there.
Number 10.
Number 10 on my list is Mickey Mouse Castle of Illusion. When it first came out in 1990 on the Sega Genesis, it's got to be one of my favorite games for that system. It's a great platforming game. It's a really fun first of the series, of course. But then I found out last year that Sega was re-releasing it for modern consoles as a DLC. And, you know, I actually enjoyed this game. I know this game honestly didn't get very good reviews, at least got average reviews. But I love it. It's considered like a 2.5D platforming game. So it's not really 2D, it's not 3D, it's a little bit of both. And they've added elements to it that are new. They've added different things in the stages to make it kind of unique. It is a fairly short game to beat, but that's fine. I mean, they definitely have done a good job with the graphics, and if you enjoyed the original, I think you should definitely check this game out.
Mickey Mouse Castle of Illusion was a NES game that has been redone in HD the same way that DuckTales Remastered has been done. And they did a really great job of it. The best way I can explain this game is it's like a NES game has had a baby with a Nintendo 64 game, and it just works really well. It's a beautiful looking game graphically, and the lighting coming through the trees in some of those levels. The sound effects are nice and crisp. The music really adds to the atmosphere. And speaking of atmosphere, the entire game is voiced over by this nice deep voice. The voiceover really adds to the game. It doesn't distract you, doesn't take away. It's a storytelling technique that is executed really well. This whole game has been just given such like a breath of life back into it. It looks beautiful, it sounds beautiful, it plays really fun. The boss battles, every boss battle just seems to get better and better with new and different ways to defeat the bosses, with different abilities that the bosses are trying to use on you, and into coming into daily life and making them look better and doing something with an old game. I think this is probably the best stab at it that I've ever seen. I can't see how they would have done this game any better.
Number 9.
Now, when me and Gamester81 were coming up with this list, half of it was mine, half of it was his, and then we just mushed it together on games that we could agree with, and this one was definitely one of mine. Fez is a beautiful 3D platformer that will just mess with your mind. This indie game had so much love, effort, and thought put into it. Seriously, I have trouble figuring out these levels to the extent of being able to complete them, let alone actually putting my head into the developer's mind and thinking how it would have looked to have these levels mapped out.
Fez came out in 2012, and it is a really fun game. It's a puzzle platforming game is the best way to explain what this game is about. And you basically on this platform, and actually you can rotate it 90 degrees, and depending on how you rotate it, it actually completely changes that level, right? So it is challenging. It's kind of unique in the sense there's no enemies, there is no boss battles, nothing like that. You're basically just this little guy that's like a mushroom wearing a Fez hat, which is where the name of the game actually comes from. It's Fez, of course.
Essentially, you have, in most of these levels, 4 different views, 4 different, like a 3-dimensional views. And you got to try and get from one platform to the next, from one area, from the bottom, from the top, from the top, from the bottom. However you do it, switching your perspective of this level. So you might have a platform here and a platform here, and that distance is too far apart, but if you switch perspective and bring it like that, you can now make that jump quite easily, and it honestly does mess with your mind. And there are puzzles that you can sit on for hours and not understand how to get through it. It's insane, but a lot of fun, a ridiculous amount of fun. So if you want an awesome puzzle platformer that is going to test you and put your brain to the test, then try out Fez. It is seriously worth the $10 price mark.
Number 8.
I disagree with this being number 8. And I know right now Gamster's gone, who? You made the list, you approved the list. Well, here's the thing, Gamester81 and everyone watching this. When I approved this list, Scott Pilgrim vs. the World was an obvious shoe-in for this list. It was obviously going to be in the top 10. I played this game when it came out. It came out, I should really research this. When do you reckon that came out? Five years ago? When the movie came out? 5 or 6. This game came out a while ago, and I played it when it first came out, and I enjoyed it. I did. But it's been a long friggin' time since I played this game, and I thought to myself, I should play this again before I sit down and review it. And this game blew me away. I mustn't have been prepared to play this game the first time, because this game deserves to be in the top 5 of this list. And I am ashamed of myself for putting it at number 8. This game is Streets of Rage on crack. If the last game was GTA on crack, this is Streets of Rage on crack. You can tell the developers of this game really saw Streets of Rage 2 as their main inspiration and their benchmark to beat. And this game beat it. This game is better than Streets of Rage 2, and Streets of Rage 2 is my favorite beat 'em up. I am not kidding when I say this game looks absolutely gorgeous. The graphics, the 16-bit style graphics on speed look absolutely amazing. Like, all these games are just like old school games on drugs. They seriously are, but this game, even down to when you die and you come back to life and the enemies like fall down, the feeling of landing the combos. And the other thing I love in this game is the physics. If you pick up a bag of trash and you throw it at someone and that bag bounces back to you, you can punch that bag back and hit them again. And then you can jump and do a flying leap kick at someone else, land and do an uppercut on someone. You can seamlessly flow through combinations of different badassery to get where you need to be in this game, and it feels amazing. Not to mention just the look, style and feel of this game.
Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, the video game, came out in 2010, around the time of the movie came out. It's based on the movie, which is based on the comic book series. I really enjoyed the movie. I know some people don't like it. I really enjoyed it. A lot of video game references. If you haven't seen Scott Pilgrim, definitely check it out. But this game is loosely based on the story, and it's a beat 'em up game based like basically in 16-bit graphic style, and you can play up to 4-player multiplayer. What killed me though is when this game first came out, you couldn't play online multiplayer. I believe they fixed that last year recently, where you can play online, which is a huge fix actually. And it definitely makes the replay value a bit more, because honestly, since it's a beat 'em up, once you beat it, replay value isn't that good. But you get coins when you defeat these enemies. They go up into coins, just actually like the movie. And what's awesome is you have these shops where you can use these coins to purchase upgrades and whatnot. But the tricky thing is finding these shops within the city or within that particular stage.
The movie Scott Pilgrim vs. the World. The movie is, if you haven't seen that movie, go check that movie out. That movie is seriously one of my top 10 favorite movies. And when I heard they were making a game of the movie, I didn't care, because whenever you hear there's going to be a game of this movie, it is never good. It is never good. I can't think of, apart from Spider-Man 2, I can't think of a game that came out from a movie that was actually good. The developers of this game sat down, took a good hard look at themselves, and thought, our game cannot be crap. And it wasn't. They went with an absolutely excellent formula. They thought this game should be about the movie, but made as a badass game. And they picked a beat 'em up, they picked Streets of Rage 2, I know they did, as their source of inspiration, and they just sat down and they absolutely belted out an amazing game. It has the same storyline as the movie, and I know it is a line of comic books as well, but the developers were obviously making this game on the basis that people had only seen the movie because it was popular around the time, and they absolutely nailed it. Seriously, that game, alright, let me look at this. That game should be number 3. Scott Pilgrim vs. the World should be number 3. I am sorry for not putting that higher. I regret everything.
Number 7.
Retro City Rampage came out several years back. It's available for most platforms, PS3, you can get on the 360, even the Vita, you can play it on the go, which is awesome. And it's done in all 8-bit graphics, 8-bit sound, and it's like the original Grand Theft Auto top-down versions. And while you basically have missions, just like Grand Theft Auto, but there's a whole bunch of different references for 80s pop culture. So you have, references to Mario Brothers, you have references to movies like Back to the Future, and Ghostbusters or whatever. And what's really cool is you can play it on the Vita to go. You can actually continue your story from the PS3 and continue on the Vita, which is awesome.
Retro City Rampage. Now this game flew under the radar for me when Gamester81 and myself were coming up with this top 10 list, and he said Retro City Rampage. My mind automatically went to Rampage on the Atari, and I was thinking that maybe there's like a remade version of Rampage, and I got excited. And it wasn't that, but I was in no way disappointed in what I actually got. Retro City Rampage is an 8-bit GTA 1 on crack. That is the best way to explain this game, seriously. There is so much hectic stuff going on. It really is, it is a parody game of GTA and the 80s and 90s pop culture around that time. And it is just a crazy amount of fun. As you'd expect, you get into cars, you mow people down, you have just like weapons with almost pretty much unlimited ammo to mow down your enemies. It seriously feels like you are playing GTA on the PlayStation in 8-bit graphics with a beautiful sense of humor. All of these NES parody games that have come out, always have like the best sense of humor, and this game is in no way any different. You will be laughing your ass off from start to finish.
Number 6.
It's hard to believe that Cave Story came out 10 years ago. It's a freeware game. Actually, you can go to cavestory.org, you can download it for free today on your PC, and you can get a patch to translate it from Japanese to English. And it is another really good retro graphic style video game, platforming game. It is a fairly short game to play. It's about 5.5 hours to complete, which actually I enjoy. I don't like a game that's super long. I don't have the attention for those type of games. But you can also have multiple endings depending on how you play it, which is pretty sweet as well.
This game was described to me when I first heard about this game was the greatest NES game never made. Now that has a huge amount of hype to live up to. This game looks beautiful. This game looks like it seriously has been made on the NES. It looks like a game that I never saw as a kid, that slipped by me when I was young, that was put onto the NES, and I now have in my collection years later down the track when I became a retro gamer. This game, it really is an NES game. A lot of these games are made in tribute, and they're just made so much flashier. We've got all this new technology, we can do this crazy crap. It's easy for us now to make over-the-top NES games that are great parody, like Retro City Rampage and Abbo's Big Adventure, which is a spoiler for something coming up. But this game is just made purely as an NES game, and the gameplay just feels like you're back playing on that little square controller. The visuals of it look like you're playing back on your old SD TV. If you love the NES, then you will love Cave Story.
Well guys, that completes part 1 for our top 10 modern games for retro fans. In part 2 we go over the other top 5 of course, and I'll put a link here so you guys can check that out. Please guys, if you guys want to stay in touch, you can follow me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. I'm also on Twitch TV. I'm everywhere, as well as my website, Gamester81.com. Please leave a comment below. Let me know what you guys think of the list before. Let me know what your guys' top 10 are, of course. And we'll see you guys soon, and take care. Have a great day.